The whole business of being an expert comes, just like the word itself, comes from experience. An expert is somebody who's been there, you've done it, you've tried it, you've handled it, and you learn things that you just can't get out of a textbook. Now, I spent the bulk of my career at one institution for decades, but in that process, all sorts of different things. Was originally doing things like, what is the risk in long-term financing for middle market companies as a mediator. I was doing modeling of how do you measure the credit risk on OTC derivatives. And after that, risk-adjusted capital and how do you measure risk-adjusted profitability. And then it was credit portfolio management. And then a big monster came in called Basel II, Advanced Internal Ratings-Based Approach, which required millions of data points. Then after that, other things, and the most recent was finding out how do you get a risk appetite framework going in a larger organization. All of these things mean that having been through it, I understand things I couldn't understand any other way. One thing I'd like to emphasize in talking about all these different things is that basically almost everything I picked up in experience was self-taught. It was, you learn by doing. And that means that it was innovation after innovation. That's why I think that if you haven't been through it, it's very hard to understand what it is to go into a situation and put expertise to work. I began focusing on risk data back in the 1980s. Where we began to work a lot with risk-adjusted profitability, risk-adjusted capital, and returns on risk-adjusted capital. That required putting a lot of focus on the data, because if you didn't get a good picture of the data, how could you estimate the risk? And if you can't estimate the risk, how would the profitability ever be calculated in a good fashion? Then in the 1990s, the bank moved, and I was actually the first investigator for it, into credit risk portfolio modeling for the entire enterprise credit risk. Now every single element in that credit portfolio had facts that had to be recorded and tracked and measured in order to do a good job of estimating what would happen to it. With coming in of Basel II in 2000, we realized we now had to deal with hundreds of thousands of credit risk data points, especially because the regulations required literally millions of data points to be captured, organized, and so forth. That prompted us, the institution, and I was in the lead of it, to initiate a risk data governance program just to handle all of this, which we hadn't tried to handle with that rigor ever before. For a risk estimation, risk management effort, you need communication skills just as much as you need risk expertise. If you stop and think about it, if a risk expert finds something interesting and important, but cannot get it communicated to the management and the executive manager who need to use that information to make decisions, the whole thing is pointless. Someone has an understanding, it doesn't reach where it needs to go, it's useless. So that's why, basically, communication when you're dealing with risk is really, really important. And by the way, it can be done wrong. You could say in both directions. Someone can give you too little information if you're the manager. They can flood you with too much information without giving you what you really need, helping you to understand what really matters by people who got the best grasp of it. My personal experience is I've been in communication as well as risk, the two simultaneously and supporting each other for basically my whole career.